everyone, and welcome to our Super Anti-Aging panel talk and masterclass. I'm going to kick off just by introducing myself and our wonderful panelists. My name is Jane McFarland, and I'm the associate editor at Grazia magazine, and I've been working in fashion and beauty journalism for the last 15 years. In the middle, we have Dr. Barbara Sturm, who, of course, needs no introduction, a leading German aesthetics doctor. She's built a whole global successful brand based on anti-inflammatory philosophies. Here is James Davies. He is a world-renowned osteopath, performance coach, and massage therapist. You've worked throughout the UK and US with Olympic athletes, Premiership footballers, and I hear you've got a book on the shelves right now called Body by James Davies. I'm also joined by Nick Littlehales, who is the author of another best-selling book called Sleep, and he's widely recognized as the world's first and leading elite sport sleep coach. So lots of questions coming your way on how to get a good night's sleep.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. And my background is I'm an anti-inflammatory doctor. I studied medicine, I studied sports, and I came into the orthopedic science. And I helped pioneering a treatment where you take body-owned proteins from the blood, create anti-inflammatory proteins out of it, and re-inject those into the joints. So we could slow down the aging process by reducing inflammation. So aging and inflammation goes very close together. I then decided to go into the aesthetics a little bit, and I learned how to inject Botox and fillers like 20 years ago when nobody was doing it, but I then translated the science from the orthopedics into the skin, and I created something you all know as vampire facial or blood facial. And the idea was to doing something on a molecular level in the skin, taking anti-inflammatory proteins into the skin to take down inflammation out of the skin and help not just the aging process, but also anything regarding your skin you probably don't like pigmentation, rosacea, acne breakouts, which all goes together with inflammation. And if we think about what inflammation is, it's an immune response which is necessary to fight viruses, bacteria, so we need to have inflammation. But if inflammation gets out of control or becomes chronic, we get autoimmune disease, we age, we get all kinds of problems in our body and our skin. So we got to keep inflammation under control. And where does inflammation come from? It comes from our diet, stress, no sleep, skincare products, pollution, HEV light from the phone, sun. So we get bombarded with our lifestyle choices and causing inflammation with that. So this is easy to adjust. You know, we can go on an anti-inflammatory diet. We can choose skincare products which are anti-inflammatory, plus also not inflammatory. We can choose to have 8 hours of sleep if we can. We can de-stress, to keep our cortisol levels low. There are some lifestyle changes we can do which are quite easy and don't cost anything.
Which leads me on perfectly, actually, to Nick, because you are the man behind the science of sleep. How does sleep affect our aging in the long term?
I think the one thing I'd like to say to everybody is that research is going on all the time, trying to find out just really how important it is, because we all know it's important to us, but it's probably even more important than we've ever imagined before. While you're in a sleep state, it's like hydrating, it's like fueling up. It's like exercise. It's something that you have to do. And when you go into a sleep state, your brain takes over. And what it does is all of those R's: replenish, rejuvenate, restore, anything you can think about it. There's certain stages of sleep, right, that are far more important to you than just sleeping. So just allocating blocks of hours doesn't mean to say you're going to sleep. Doesn't mean to say you're going to go into certain places. So I started to look at how anybody could optimize their recovery and realize that it's not a waste of time. It's something that is as valuable as anything else you do. And in my world in sport, I would suggest it's the number one health pillar. Because if you're not recovering, have a recovery approach, forget the 8 hours, that's a myth. If you haven't got a recovery approach, then what's going to happen, everything else you try and do, including looking beautiful, and including aging, including everything else, is going to be slightly diminished, right? It's not going to be as valuable to you unless you put that recovery first. So it's one of the biggest health factors, call it human recovery performance for yourselves. And if you're not applying it right now in this very difficult world we live in, your success factors will be reduced.
James, I wanted to ask you about sleep positions. How important is the position that we're sleeping in, and how best do we optimize?
That's a very good question. But first of all, I feel that I'm in a band. I feel that I need to break into song. Anyway. Oh yeah. Anyway. But first of all, everyone's different. So for many years, people say that, what is the best mattress? What is the best pillow? So I like to be Sherlock Holmes. I like to solve the case of everybody here. So I always tell patients that we're all different and unique. So first of all, it sounds creepy, but get a family member to take a picture of how you sleep, because it can be that you have the perfect pillow, but it's how you place your head on it. So your neck might be tilted a certain way that can be very detrimental on the vertebrae, on the disc, on the muscles. So it can lengthen one side of your muscles or shorten it. So the best person to tell you if your sleeping position is wrong is you. So basically, you need to kind of figure out, do I have an ache in my neck? Do I have an ache in my back when you wake up in the morning? So you have to solve the case and find the pattern. But most commonly, people will say that sleeping on your back is the best way, and sleeping on your front is the worst way. But it would be good to get Nick's tips on that. But that's too general. So I'm a therapist. I don't like to be general. I like to work with the patient as well as me working. So it's not an exact way every single time. But as I said, look at the clues. Do you have aches? Do you have pains during the day or when you wake up in the morning? I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I just feel like you're going to have a lineup of like one-to-ones coming up after this where we all want to be told a bespoke approach to how we should be sleeping at night. And Barbara, we laugh about the term beauty sleep, but it's actually a very real expression, and beauty sleep is a real thing. While we're sleeping, how does our body, our brain, and our skin rejuvenate?
Yeah, Nick already said, during night, every recovery, rejuvenation, every, repair takes place. And the best thing is if we put our forces into the nighttime and sometimes even skip dinner so that our body is really focusing on the rejuvenation process. And, we're going through a day and night rhythm, and, we have our cortisol rising, and so we have the circadian rhythm, and so we have it for all our organs and also for our skin. And during the night, our skin gets in a total repair mode, and you can actually mess it up if you look at your iPad at night, sitting in bed, going shopping. So your hypothalamus thinks, it's night, but your skin sensors tell through the light, oh God, it's day. And, the skin during the day, is in a protection mode and catches free radicals and whatever. So it's different, and we have to respect that day and night routine. And so I think a nighttime routine or hygiene is very, very important. So I was in Munich 2 days ago, and I was in a hotel room, and they had lights everywhere. I was so tired, I fell asleep. And then I woke up because there was an iPad, there was 1,000 lights. And I was like, oh my God, it's driving me crazy. And then you lose your sleep. You have a hard time then sleeping again. So I think it's very important to have a good hygiene when you go to bed and not have your phone charger right next to you, and you don't have lights on your TV and electro smog. And you know this way better than me, so maybe you jump in here.
Yeah, please do, because I was going to wait to the end to ask for your top tips, but I think we all want to hear them now.
Sorry, you want them now?
Well,
Wow.
just it leads on very naturally onto, how else you would agree with what Barbara said in terms of having the importance of a routine and sleep hygiene.
Okay, I think there's one word, sleep hygiene, that sort of go, what does that mean? You have to wash your hands or keep clean. There's lots of little terms around sleep that that's why these myths and misunderstandings is put it engaged. And you're describing something, I coach athletes to sleep anywhere, anytime, any place, up the side of mountains,
Buses.
not just in beds and hotels and all that sort of stuff. Sleep anywhere, sleep on that floor, right here, right now, sort of thing. I think the thing is, when you look at top tips, everybody's looking for little isolated tricks, a supplement, or a new pillow or something like that. What you need to do is just go on a little journey. And there's 7 little areas. They're called the key sleep recovery indicators. One is circadian rhythms. Tap it in your browser. Don't have to be scientific, but the sun goes around our planet, right? It creates an external and internal clock in you as a human being. And it's your relationship with light and diminished light in the 4 phases of the day, right? Just become more aware that you're a brain with bodily functions. You're still a human being. And that synchronization with our planet has never changed and never will. You've all got chronotypes in here, right? Some of you are morning chronotypes. Some of you are nighttime chronotypes. It's genetic. You override it, you camouflage it. So some love the mornings, some like to be up late. Be more aware of it in your everyday life because it has an effect. The third one out of the 7 as the tips is if you're in a clinic, you would get your brainwave patterns measured by what's a thing called a polysomnograph. And that polysomnograph would track all your brainwave patterns, right? And that would show all the stages of sleep. And they look at it in 90-minute cycles. They look at the next 90-minute cycle. So the first thing you do is you think of your 24 hours in 90-minute cycles. 5 90-minute cycles is 7.5 hours. If I asked anybody in this room to give me a number about sleeping, you'd say 8. Get your 8 hours. If you get 6, you're going to pass away, right? So you think in 90-minute cycles. You think of an anchor point. This is the start of your day. Think about your chronotype. It's a reset point. This is what your brain wants. It's called sunrise. So you create your own sunrise point, okay? And that's the anchor. Chop your day up into 90-minute cycles. You'll have 16 cycles. And start to think about what you do in every cycle, because you've got mental and physical activities, and you've got mental and physical recovery activities. This is not wasting time. And what you do is you create some rhythm. There's a lot more to it. I can't take up everybody's time. But you do start to get this post-sleep. Anchor point, mine's 6:30. Start your day. What do you do in the first 90 minutes to bring you into the world as a human being? What do you do in the final 90 minutes before your targeted sleep time? You can also think about polyphasic sleeping, because up until electric light, we never used to try and sleep in one block, right? We always had a multiphasic approach to recovery. So you can actually think, right, I could look at 4 cycles at night and 6 hours all the way through. No wake-ups, no going to the toilet. Creating more space in your 24 hours. So in my world in sports, we're not interested in getting more sleep. We're interested in optimizing the hours that we allocate to it so it doesn't waste valuable time. And where the aging thing comes in is you've got this inner health. And that's when you're in a recovery state, you get this real rejuvenation of inner health as well as outer health. And basically, if you could watch your inside versus your outside, is that you're probably getting older inside than you would like, because it's happening too quickly, because you're not replenishing it. And one little quick trick when you think about circadian rhythms, many of you might have heard of melatonin, serotonin, right? That's triggered by daylight. And inside of daylight, there's blue light, and that's a free energy wave. And there's a number of things that happen when you expose yourself to light, particularly first thing in the morning, right? Because that triggers a hormone called serotonin. It also triggers a little clock. You get an adrenaline and cortisol spike from your adrenal gland, and it creates this lovely rhythm. So what you start doing when you think about light is you stop thinking about how you're going to sleep Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because that doesn't exist on our planet. You stop thinking about how many hours am I going to get, and you start thinking cycles. And you start thinking 24 hours. And the biggest thing that happens to you is you stop worrying about it. Because most people start their day worrying about how they slept last night. They're then worried about how they're going to sleep tonight before you've even left this room. You're worried about sleep before you go to sleep. You're worried about whether you're going to get 8 hours. You're worried about whether you're going to wake up and go to the toilet at 2 o'clock in the morning and you can't go back to sleep again. Because it's natural. It's natural to wake at 2 o'clock, right? So a little trick. Go onto the App Store. Find a little thing called a light meter, right? There's a little free one. It's a little dial, right? It's lux lumens, and it's just measuring the light around me and Barbara. Yeah? So when you all hear about shut your tech down and wear blue blocker glasses and all this sort of stuff, Here it's telling me that we're sitting in about 419 lux, okay, in here right now. That's melatonin land, right? That level of lux is diminished, it's low. Look at those lights at me, right? Because it's not daylight, it's not blue light. So where I'm sat here right now, my brain is being told to produce melatonin, right? I'm producing melatonin. That's telling my brain to suppress myself, because that's what melatonin does. Serotonin tells the brain to unsuppress it, all right? You ask for tips. And what happens is that when you're wandering around your place, so get one, because outside today, it was nearly 80,000 lux in the light, right? In here, it's 400, right? So what you need is a nice balance. What we do know is it's around 80 to 100,000 lux outside, depending on the seasons, right? Inside of that, our average exposure would be 10,000 lux in the first 2 phases of the day, sunrise, midday, sunset, an average of 10. So if you think every 90 minutes, your average exposure should be around 1,000 lux, then if I sit here for 30 minutes in 400 lux, I might as well be going to sleep. What I'm asking my brain is to override it, right? It's asking my brain to override that process. And that's why we find it so difficult to sleep. And that's why you could turn it around overnight and really take full advantage of everything else you do. It really makes a massive difference. Sorry about the top tips.
I'm versed. I'm ready to go. I'm taking out the 90-minute rule is what I took out from that. I'm going to listen to that. Barbara, you mentioned it. You touched on it a little bit earlier. The Kobe procedure, where you utilize a patient's own blood cells to produce proteins that reduce inflammation and stimulate the healing process. I just wondered if you could expand a bit on that.
Yeah, that's what I explained earlier, that, these anti-inflammatory proteins had a really great effect on joints which are inflamed. And they're not just inflamed when they age. With osteoarthritis, they can also be inflamed when they're injured. And, when they're thick and swollen. And that has an effect, again, this chronic inflammation in your joints has an effect on the aging process again. So it's kind of like a vicious cycle into, instead of injecting cortisone or any other, ingredients with a lot of side effects, we use the proteins from the blood from your own body, which didn't have any side effect. And that was super effective and at the time saved his career.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then, James, how does osteopathy lead into that? Essentially, how does that also help the recovery process and essentially prevent aging?
Well, it's looking at the bigger picture, the whole picture. So if everyone can raise their hands up, who has had a massage in the last month? Well, that's a good show of hands, So I think the biggest thing is that we don't take care of ourselves, or some of us don't. So we have to take a step backwards and give ourselves space. So in my book, I talk about space, and I give each letter a unique importance to our life. So S being for sleep, and we've talked about that. P is posture. So I'm always looking at people every day. I'm looking, how are you sitting, all that stuff.
I know.
A is activity. Are we active enough? Are we too busy sitting down a lot, C is being calm. So we need a calm state, because stress is a silent killer. And when you have chronic stress, it can affect so many structures in our body. So you're going to laugh at me. So I do ice baths at 5 o'clock every morning. Is that good? A good time to get up, yeah?
You're obviously a morning chronotype there,
I'm a
Jack.
morning person, but I'm a vampire at night as well. So I don't know what I'm doing. No, but so ice baths for me, it increases the vagus nerve, it stimulates it, and I'm always active. I'm never tired. I feel really, really good. And with the clients that the clients that I've told them to do, I've seen a change in them. And I do saunas, so I get that shock of ice and I get that shock of heat, and that does so much amazing stuff to the chemistry in my body. This makes me to not feel achy. And there's so much science research out there, so you should definitely go and check it out. And energy is the last one to finish off space. We have to be so careful who we give our time to, because you can have somebody that's so negative, and that can have such a mental and physical strain in us, So all those things in space, it can affect our aging. So that's how I work. So I look at everything. Of course, I'm I'm an osteopath, I'm physical, I do cupping, I do acupuncture, all these things. So I would advise you, go and see a therapist that has a Mary Poppins bag of all these skills that can help you. But going back to aging, one of the biggest tips is your face. You have 40 muscles in your face. Did you know that? You know, so trying to massage that every day by yourself, because we are a nation, we are scared to touch ourselves or someone in our family member to give us a massage. But something as simple as that can improve the collagen in your face, stimulate it, you know?
To this massage, I want to say one thing. You know, we can massage our skin. That's great. It stimulates our fibroblasts. Same like dry brushing our body, which is amazing. It stimulates our fibroblasts to produce collagen. But sometimes I see these like crazy massages, like hurtful massages. And I have to say, you know, those 40 muscles and those all these difficile structures in our face and our skin, they're also easily ruptured.
When I treat someone, the power of touch is so important. You're giving someone energy, and I don't want to be all wacky and stuff, so I mix the science with common sense. So even you placing your hands on your face, don't be aggressive, don't be light, but find that right pressure, and you will get to know that. You just need to just try it. Because we use these muscles to eat, to smile, to sing, to talk, so it's another form of stress that can lead to aging. So we just need to be very careful.
But I think in the time of self-care, especially during COVID, I think we all learned how to really do like a beautiful skincare routine and have these like little strokes we're doing. So I think we all, you know, leveled up, or how do you say it? Upgraded our little routine.
At home routine. Well, that's one question I had actually based on you're talking about self-massage. Do you recommend using your hands, using the stones, using like cloths? What's the best way to get it? What's the wrong thing?
So I would say always hands first.
Okay.
And then use, so I'm not an expert in the creams, so Barbara will know that, but I normally use shea butter. Is that good?
It's a really good ingredient. I don't know if it's enough. I want you
here.
to do the facial. Your skin will be
I can't
like
wait.
glowy.
Definitely. Yeah, so hands-on for me, and get the tips with Barbara with what to use for the face.
Barbara, how rapidly does our skin actually age? How quick is the process?
I think there's like, this is individually different, you know. It depends on your genetics, on your skin type, on your skin structure, on your lifestyle, on your whatever you do to your skin, how you take care of your skin, how rough you are with your skin. I think there's like fine, you know, differences. But I think what is the most important thing in my eyes to get hydration levels in all skin. I think dehydrated and dry skin is never an option. That is a garant for fast aging.
We've kind of talked about your tips, but if there were a handful of takeaways.
One little one, I think, when we're talking about chopping your day up into 90-minute cycles, thinking 24 hours, what you're looking for is the deeper sleep stages. These are REM stages, deep sleep stage, when you are absolutely almost in a paralyzed state. And that's when your brain's going to completely renew you in every single way, okay? But it's only 20% of any period of sleep that you allocate, whether that's 12 hours, 10 hours, or just an hour, right? Only 20%. And it's only revealed, because the brain's in a circadian rhythm, between around 10 o'clock at night and 2 o'clock in the morning. So the first 2 90-minute cycles of your sleep is where your brain will look for that deep slough, right? Once it goes past around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, you're in wake cycles. So everybody who's got sleep trackers, it doesn't spot any REM sleep or deep sleep after about 2 or 3 o'clock, because that is when your brain stopped doing it. So instead of thinking about your 8 hours at night, you start focusing on the first 2 cycles of your sleep, right? The first 2 90-minute cycles, that 3 hours, is the most important 2 bits of your 24 hours. And that's what really helps you regenerate and restore yourself. And that's where the focus is. So you completely change it.
Noted. Barbara, top anti-aging tips.
You see, I go a little in a different area than my colleague, but I think, you know, we should really live an anti-inflammatory lifestyle. We should try. It's all in moderation. We don't have to do just one thing or the other thing, but I don't believe in also ingredients in skincare which cause inflammation, like retinol, for example. I would not cause damage to my skin, which destroys our skin barrier and microbiome to make us vulnerable. Because if we use retinol, then we have to use sunscreen 24/7. But as you said, we have also mechanism in our skin which come up like little umbrellas to protect from sun. And I don't say don't use sunscreen when you're in the midday sun, but we need the sun for our vitamin D production, our bones, our immune system, our mental health, our respiratory tract. We're not born as moles underneath the earth. And sunscreens are ingredients which are not all that amazing on our skin. These are not great ingredients. So I personally want you to have a good skin barrier, healthy and strong skin. It's called corneotherapy. It's actually a new term in the dermatology. So while dermatology was always like, very abrasive in a way in their approach, but, they really talk about corneotherapy now, meaning like respecting your skin barrier and strengthening your skin barrier, which you definitely don't do when you use retinol and retinoids, which can be super helpful if you have acne problems, but I think if you try to solve pigmentation issues with retinol and you destroy your skin barrier function, you caused inflammation, which causes pigmentation again. So I've seen so many patients who were on retinol who became all of a sudden this spotty skin because they make themselves so vulnerable, so defenseless against the sun. And not just sun. If we talk about protection against sun, we need to talk about protection against pollution and protection against the HEV light, the digital light, the blue light, which also is quite aggressive to the skin. That's just my approach. And you know what? There are many, many, many ways and many different views. And it doesn't, I like to get this education from different sides so you guys can make up your own mind with the information you have.
Thank you. And James, finally, what are your top tips for a good night's sleep, anti-aging, feeling like the best possible version of yourself?
So the ultimate tip, I would say, try and build a health team around you. So it's not only for athletes or actors or people. Try and think of yourself as a superstar, because we're all unique in our own way. So going back to me, I love doing the ice baths. I like doing saunas and all those things. But I give myself an MOT. So we all should have an MOT every month, whether that's massage, doing something good for our body. And who does that? Not that many people do. They wait to go on a spa day. That's probably once every 2 years. So put yourself first. It's not you being selfish, because you owe that to yourself. Because if you put yourself first, you're going to be better at what you do on a day-to-day job. You're going to be a better husband, better wife, all of those lovely things. But another tip, try and have a sanctuary in your home. Try and have a place where you can go and meditate, where you can just go and stretch, where you can go and do something good for your skin. One thing that I use, because I drive a lot, I use something called a Normatec. Have you heard of those compression boots? So imagine Wallace and Gromit. You remember that film with the trousers? So that's very good for circulation. So it pumps the blood in and out. So I kind of multitask. So when I have a long day of work, I go and watch a movie or a TV show. I put these boots on, and I'm in a happy state. So you don't have to do that, but try and think. Take a step backwards, give yourself space, and think of things that you can realistically do every single day. Because going back to the point, we are different. So what works for me might not work for everybody. And of course, you have to follow the general rules for anti-aging and sleeping, but try and go on a journey that works for you. Something that brings you joy, brings you happiness, and is good for your health.
Thank you, Fab. Well, I'm sure you'll all agree. Some amazing advice today, and lots of takeaways and the good practices that we can hopefully all put in place. So thank you to the amazing panel. And now it's time for your masterclass.